Well, welcome to the 2011 Tea Party Cyber Tour Tele-Town Hall and webcast. Hi, my name is Rusty Humphries. I'm a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. I'll be serving as the moderator for this event. I want to thank everyone for dialing in today. Now, if at any point you drop from the call, you can also hear this event and watch this event online live at teapartycybertour.net. Now, before we get going, I'd like to give some special thanks to our sponsor, the teaparty.net, for offering these Tea Party Cybertown Hall meetings so we can have a platform to ask questions and learn more about conservative candidates and leaders working to replace Barack Obama in the 2012 elections. With that said, I am pleased to be joined by very popular businessman from Georgia, Herman Cain. Now, before you jump in here, Mr. Cain, I want to let folks know you are a political activist, a columnist, a fantastic radio talk show host. Thank goodness he's out of radio now, out of Georgia. He's former chairman and CEO of Godfather's Pizza, a former deputy chairman and chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, which we will definitely talk about in a couple of minutes. Before this business and economics career, he worked on ballistics for the U.S. Navy. Herman Cain hosted Talk Radio's Herman Cain Show until February 2011, serves as commentator for Fox Business and a syndicated columnist. Herman Cain, welcome to the Cyber Party Teletown Hall with Rusty Humphries. Hello.
Rusty, I'm delighted to be with you, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in or joining in today. It's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, there's a bunch of ways people can participate in this. I'm not just going to hog you. If you're on the conference call, if you press *3, you can just be dialed right in. If you're watching online, you can call 404-367-9478. That's our flagship radio stations, 404-367-WGST. Or if you want to ask a question on Twitter, use the hashtag TCyber. So, Mr. Cain, they put up some questions on Facebook. And I got to tell you, the one thing that there was a lot of overwhelming stuff, and I want to get right into it. The overwhelming question is about the Federal Reserve. Some of the people were a little bit jerky. I mean, for example, ask the trader banker if he respects our Constitution enough to abide by it. I mean, the Federal Reserve thing is hitting a nerve here. Tell me about the Federal Reserve, what you did, and why this is not an issue for you.
It is not an issue for me, and for those people where it is an issue, that's their decision. Look, when I was on the Federal Reserve Board, it was back in the mid-1990s. Alan Greenspan was the chairman of the Board of Governors. Each of the Federal Reserve banks has a citizens board. It is a citizens board where you meet once a month to provide anecdotal as well as real-life input to the full-time staff. Now, the people who are getting all herky-jerky about me having been affiliated with the Federal Reserve Bank back in the mid-1990s, I don't apologize for that, and I never will, and here's why. Because the Federal Reserve actions taken during the decade of the 90s when I was affiliated with it, I don't apologize for. Our primary responsibility, which we lived up to with the leadership of Alan Greenspan, was to help to control inflation in this country and help to manage the monetary supply. And the other aspect about it is, back in the mid-1990s, we didn't have $14 trillion in debt like we have today. Relative to $14 trillion, it was almost minuscule. And as a result, since we didn't have a $14 trillion national debt, we didn't have to, as the Federal Reserve, to make decisions to help prop up our currency, which is what this current Federal Reserve Bank has been doing, because it has allowed itself to become overly politicized by the administration. So the thing that I would say to people is, number one, there are some people out there who believe we should end the Fed. I don't. I believe that we need to fix the Fed, and there is a way to fix the Fed, and that is to narrow their mission back to the mission that they had when they were much more successful in doing the things that they do. The question that I would throw back to people who want to take this kind of attitude is, if you end the Fed, what are you going to replace it with? To say that we don't need the Fed and have some way to manage our currency is like saying we don't need an air traffic control system in order to manage airplanes flying all over the country. That is a short-sighted and naive solution to something that could also be corrected simply by fixing the Fed, by restricting its mission to do the things that it can do.
Does it need to be audited? Would you have the Fed audited?
I do not object to auditing the Fed. I do not object to auditing the Fed. But I am not going to lead that parade, as I have told people, because based upon what I know about the Fed, I don't think you're going to find anything. And so people have misconstrued what I said to say that I don't want the Fed audited. No, I'm simply not going to object to the Fed being audited, and nor is that going to be something that I am going to lead in trying to get done.
Okay, Herman Cain is here. This is our Tea Party town hall. If you would like to ask a question, if you're on the conference call, press star 3. If you're watching online, you can call the phone number 443-679-9478. And if you want to ask a question on Twitter, use hashtag TCyber.
And Rusty, let me interrupt you. Let me go back and answer the other part of that question, which sounded a little bit sarcastic, and that is, would I enforce the Constitution? I have said repeatedly that I believe in the Declaration of Independence. I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America, and therefore I don't believe that we need to rewrite either one of them. We need to reread them and enforce the Constitution. Enforcing the Constitution is one of the 3 major objectives of the Tea Party movement, which from the beginning I have been a big supporter of. Enforce the Constitution, allow our free market system to operate the way it is supposed to by getting government out of the way and showing some fiscal responsibility. I believe in all 3 of those very strongly that I have talked about extensively.
All right, let's go to the phone on the conference call. Let's go to Raymond. Raymond, hello. You are on with Herman Cain. Hello.
Hello. First of all, Mr. Cain, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this town hall and having the courage to run for president. I think that you are absolutely at the top of the conservative heap to really take this on, and I really appreciate your stance on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because
thank you.
I don't think there's no compromising when it comes to those documents. My question to you, sir, is the amount of money that they keep talking about. Apparently, the president has $1 billion to campaign for his re-election. I was told many years ago by a dear friend of mine who was our 5th district congressman, George Nethercutt, who I helped campaign on 2 election cycles, told me, he says, Raymond, the only way you're going to get anything done in this country is work the grassroots. Sir, my question to you is, I know you're probably not going to have a huge war chest compared to $1 billion, but what is it are you going to do to get the message out to our to everybody, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all of them, to really get the message out? And what kind of support is it that you need so that we can get you into the White House?
Well, that is a great question, and let me start with your friend that you helped gave you absolutely the right advice, and that is you've got to work the grassroots. Number one, that's why I'm participating on calls like this that I have looked forward to doing. I don't know exactly how many people are here. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is when people are able to hear my message firsthand, then they know exactly where Herman Cain is coming from. And secondly, I just finished giving a speech to a group of about 250 people here in Aiken, South Carolina. They're members of the Republican Club. And 250 people left here very enthusiastic about Herman Cain. This is what I have been doing for months. My first Tea Party speech was back on April 15th, 2009, in Las Vegas, because I was there to give a keynote speech at a conference, and the Tea Party people were doing their first Tea Party. They asked me to speak. They were expecting 600 people, and they ended up with 2,600, and now all of you all know that those numbers have done nothing but grow. That day, I knew something special was happening in this country. And what that special thing happening is that this sleeping giant called We the People has awakened and is not going back to sleep. That's what encourages me. And so since that time, I have been speaking to dozens and dozens of groups, different audiences, different types of organizations and setups, et cetera, all over the country. And as a result, I have done just that, and that is I have built and we are continuing to build a very effective grassroots movement. And so I'm not as concerned about the $1 billion as someone might be, because the typical model of running for office revolves around having high name ID and a lot of money. This is why you don't hear some of the stations talk about me as much as they talk about the others. My approach and our approach has all along been, let's build a grassroots level of awareness, which we have done. This is why I have been winning straw polls. This is why I have won a couple of recent polls in Iowa and in the state of New Hampshire, because word is spreading on the ground about Herman Cain, even though some of the political pundits, they haven't, chosen to recognize me yet. And so you are absolutely right, and this is where I will continue to do so by doing what I'm doing, speaking in as many places as I can speak. And by the way, on Saturday at high noon in Atlanta at Centennial Olympic Park, I will be making a formal announcement about my go, no-go decision as far as the presidency. More than 5,000 of my closest friends and all of you all invited to be there. I will be making an official announcement. And to put it in the words of one of my supporters, Barack Obama may be raising $1 billion, but the people of this country are going to raise some cane.
Herman Cain here on the 2011 Tea Party Cyber Tour at Teletown Hall. We also, by the way, we're going to take some more of your calls. There's a poll question out there, and a number of them. Question, who or what do you believe is responsible for the rise in gas prices? If you're listening on the conference call, key in 1 if you think it's the oil companies, key in 2 if you think it's the oil speculators, key in 3 if the crisis in the Middle East and North Africa is the reason, or key in 4 if the restrictions on drilling here in the United States is what is responsible for the high gas prices. Again, if you want to participate, if you're on the conference call, you can dial *3. If you're watching online on video, 404-367-9478. Let's go to one of those phone calls. Memphis, Tennessee is where Jackie is. Jackie, hello. You are on with Herman Cain. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, Jackie.
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cain, I know it's always different when someone's in an elected office. And there's many things that you want to do for the country and that you're telling us you want to do to help us get the country back on track. Would you come to us and respect us enough to tell us why, when you're president, you could not do something the way you promised to do, assuming that the reason wasn't a state secret that would compromise the security of our country?
Jackie, I absolutely promised that, but I will go one step further. I happen to believe that the solutions to many of our problems are common sense solutions, which people can find at my website, hermancain.com. Those common sense solutions I wrote because I wanted people to be able to understand. And the other thing that I will do as president is that I will engage and explain to the public the why, the what, and the how of the things that I believe that will put this country back on track. Because I believe that if the public understands it, they will support it and they will demand it. Here's something that I will never do. I will never force legislation down the throats of the American people. I will never lecture to the American people like many of us see today from this president. I respect the American people. And so part of my strategy for being effective as a president is to engage the public, meaning that they will understand the why, the what, and the how, and I will spend as much time communicating with the American public about these solutions so they can help me put heat on the members of Congress in order to get these things passed. Now, the other part of your question, you're absolutely right. If I say that I'm going to do something, and for some reason that I find out that there's some other information that I did not know as to why I need to not do it, I will come to the American people and say, I promised this, but let me tell you why that can't be done right now. And it might be because there is some confidential information or some classified information that as president I would have that I don't have today. This is why, Jackie, when people ask me about what I would do about Afghanistan, some people think I'm dodging the question when I say, well, I do know that I want to answer the question, what is our mission? How is it in the best interest of the United States of America? And can we win, whatever that means? If we can't win, then I want a strategy for how we get out of Afghanistan. Some people say, well, you ought to know what you would do. Not if I don't have all the information. One of the things that people will realize about me is, as president and as a businessman, I don't shoot from the lip. I like to have all of the available information that I need or can get or advice from the experts before I make a decision that's going to put our young men and women in harm's way. We can't be the policemen of the world. And as a result, I'm going to make as responsible of a decision as I can on everything, especially when it comes to our military involvement in other parts of the world.